Hello, everybody, and welcome to tonight's Creating Conscious Relationships. I'm Catherine.
I'm John.
And we are excited to chat with you guys more tonight about the ego and more information about what the ego does, what the ego is all about, and how you can work with the ego in order to help yourself, your relationship with yourself, but also with your relationships with people around you. As always, we invite you to join in on the conversation, share your questions, share your thoughts, share your opinions, whatever might be coming up for you as we are chatting tonight.
Absolutely.
So
nothing better than having a conversation with the community, right?
That's right. We're just trying to get Facebook to upload onto my computer right now, so just giving it a moment because it seems to be having a bit of a problem with connecting, and just want to make sure we're actually live right now. So as I'm waiting on John to get that uploaded and going, it doesn't seem like it's going to be today. That's all right. Tonight we're going to be talking about really getting out of your own way when it comes to the ego. And essentially, a lot of times the ego will create belief systems, thoughts, and ideas that it believes to be more correct than any other position or any other belief system. And when we allow those parts to become the most kind of dominating thought or the dominating narrator in our lives, it can often create a block or obstacle on the path of what you're actually wanting within your relationship or within even your own personal development and what's going on in your life.
Yeah, and I think that it really applies to a number of different situations, right? I mean, how many times, I know I can think of myself, but you get in your own way, and being that you try so hard to get something done, or you try so hard to accomplish anything, and it just doesn't work out. It doesn't work out, and you try this and you try that, and you just keep trying all of these different avenues, and you get even more frustrated. And really, that is that whole part of getting out of your own way is just stop doing those things. Let and trust that the universe will work itself out. It will resolve that issue. Whatever needs to come from that will take place.
Yeah. I was saying to John before we got on here tonight, we have a lot of real life experiences of me getting into my own way when it came to things that I desired, things that I wanted, and all of the positions that I took on them. And he got to witness all of the positions kind of show up and hear everything that these positionalities had to say about things. And you really led me into a place of surrendering and trusting when my ego was really just quite anxious and determined and getting pissed off about timings of things and how it should be versus how it was and whatnot. And our first experience with that was when we were getting pregnant with our youngest child. And I had this calling for this baby to come forward and wanted to get pregnant, wanted us to have a baby. And it was 5 years of us trying to have a baby. And in that 5 years, he got to see all of these positions that I held, all of these beliefs that I held, all of the anger, the sadness, the disappointment, the trying to will things to work.
The lack of trust.
The lack of trust.
That's the big one. Not me, but like universally, what I kept saying was, I don't know how, but this is going to happen. I know inside of me, there's when you know, and those of you that know what I'm talking about. But there was just that knowing that I know this is going to happen. I don't know how. I don't know when.
And that's where my ego would usually jump in when his trust would come out and go, I know it's going to happen. My ego would come out and be like, well, tell me how. Tell me, when is this going to happen? Show me the proof.
Show me the documented plan for every step of how we're going to get there.
Yes, because that's just how I was working at that time. And I mean, we've seen it again with the experiences of the Camino and stuff. And again, I hold these really big positionalities. And the thing is I can laugh about it now. But when I was in the whole entanglement of wanting to have a baby or wanting to do the Camino, it was not like I was just like, oh, I trust that it's going to happen. It was, I need proof that it's going to happen. I need to know it's going to happen. I need to know that this pain that I'm experiencing is all for a reason. And you kept saying, trust, trust, trust. And I'd get so angry at him. Like, stop telling me to trust this. Just show me how this is going to happen. And that's where the ego can get so tricky for us, is that when we're in the shit of life, when we're experiencing difficulty in life, when we're going through challenges in life, we often just want those challenges to be over and done with. We want...
Well, we're in a quick fix society, right? We want everything to be the way we want it, when we want it, how we want it. We don't trust that, there is a plan. We need to see the plan because we don't trust that there's a plan, but somehow that plan got us here. So, we have lost faith in trusting the universe will provide and the universe will guide. Yeah. We think that we can play God and we're the masters of our own destiny and we can drive this ship. Can we? We can influence it, but
And I think that there's got to be an even balance between the trust that we have in, I've got this idea for this thing, I've got this calling for the thing, I want a better relationship, I want more connection, I want more money, whatever it might be that you're desiring more of right now. There's got to be a balance between I trust that this is going to get better, or I trust that I'm going to have the relationship I want, and also these are the actions that I'm willing to take to try and get closer.
Absolutely. You can't stop, right? Like, I'm not saying just sit on your hands and wait for things to fall. I'm not saying that. I'm saying you have to remove the positionalities and the expectations.
Yes.
That this is how it's going to happen. This is how I want it to see. No, go and do your natural day of living your life. And things will start falling into place. Yeah.
And another aspect of that too is allowing yourself to take a position of, I don't know what the answer is here, but I'm willing to find out. That a lot of times we go, I just need to figure out how. I just need to figure out how I can fix this. I just need to figure out how I can make this happen. I just need to figure out whatever. And our brain does everything it can to try and figure out the answer, which is great. But a lot of times it's exhausting us. And it's a lot of effort that we put into something that's just going to naturally flow for us when we allow ourselves to surrender and giving yourself permission to just say, I don't know what the answer is, but I'm willing to allow it to be revealed to me. I'm willing to be open to see, to be receptive to how this could all work out. Because the truth is that the universe is working through each of us. It's expressing itself for each of us, for our divine path, for things to open up for us. So any challenges that we have are not to block us or to stop us from being able to do the things that are calling to us or that we desire or anything like that. It's almost like sharpening a pencil, So a lot of times when we have a new dream or a new thought or a new idea or something that we want to pursue, it's like we're this, kind of dull pencil, or maybe a pencil that's never been sharpened before. And then these challenges come up and they help to sharpen that lead. And it's not saying, hey, you can't create a picture. It's just saying, hey, you've got to sharpen your pencil first before you can start drawing on this canvas or before you can start painting or whatever. And allowing that and allowing those challenges to almost where you're at a point of, I accept this within my life. Maybe it's not the most preferred way that you're accepting it. You know, maybe the challenge is like, oh, that's really tough, but I'm accepting that this is a part of my growth plan. This is a part of my divine plan to help me get to where I need to be.
Yeah, and going back to the, getting in our own way. There was another thing that we had talked about was the external influence that comes in that reinforces you to get in your own way, right? So I mean, we all have these external. We all have history. We all have parents, friends, whatever, social media, etc., etc. But how many people have had that? Let's say pride. Pride is one that has come up a couple times in the last little while, where it's like, well, I'm too proud to do this. Even though I need this thing, I'm too proud to, do what I need to do to make this happen. Well, where did that come from? Was that because that's your experience, or is that from somebody else? And this is another example of you getting in your own way, is you're not doing the things that you need because you're too proud to do the things that you need to do.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I've experienced that where there was a time where I'd wanted to join the gym, but I was ashamed because I was too fat to join the gym. And I didn't want to go to the gym looking fat. I wanted to lose weight to be able to go to the gym so I didn't look so fat going to the gym. Do you know what I mean? And it's like that pride, it got in my own way of joining a gym, because it's, you think, well, I've got to look a certain way before I can go because people are going to judge me, or they're going to look at me this certain way if I don't have the perfect gym body.
The ego was just taking hit after hit, eh?
Yeah. And that's what happens, right? And it's why it's so important to really, fact check yourself and really ask yourself, is this the truth? Is this supporting the life that I am trying to create for myself? Because a lot of times that ego part, or these wounded parts that we carry, they are positionalities from a previous time that is not beneficial or helpful for you and what it is that you're trying to do, what it is that you are wanting to kind of come forward for you.
Yeah, and just think, the thing that you need to do the most, you're getting in your own way, and you're preventing yourself from reaching that. I want everybody to think about that.
Yeah.
There's not an external force. It's not your neighbor. It's not your boss. It's not this person. It's you. I hear this all the time. Oh, you know what I could do if I just did this? Then why aren't you doing it? Well, unless you're in prison and you're watching this, but I mean, nobody's holding you back from reaching your full potential but yourself.
Well, and I mean, here's the thing too. I've known people who have gone to prison and they've actually gotten law degrees while they're in prison. So, I mean, we ultimately at this point in time in our lives, we have a vast amount of information available to us, vast opportunities to be able to educate ourselves and grow ourselves and whatnot. And it's funny too, going back to my example of like, I'm not going to join the gym until I lose weight or whatever. I can hop onto YouTube and I could put in whatever exercise video I want, but also I haven't done that. So it's, you can come up with these excuses, but then also create even more excuses beyond it. And that's cool if that's your prerogative. But if you're truly wanting to illuminate your own path and you're truly wanting to get out of your own way, you have to be honest with yourself. You have to call yourself out on your own BS, on what your own small stories are.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong. We're talking about this, and it can be difficult to get out of your own way. And what I'm saying that is that ego will give you every reason, and then it'll be supported by other things that you see or hear or other people, and it will continue to hold you back. But that's still you listening to that voice. Just stop listening to that voice, take your hands off the wheel, and let the universe take over. Say, you know what, okay, I'm just gonna see what happens. If this is meant to be, things are gonna happen the way they're gonna happen.
Yeah.
Not on my timeline. I don't control this.
Yeah.
And let it go.
Yeah. And I giggle about that because that has been one of my strongest challenges that I've experienced in this life, is that when I have a calling for something, when I have a desire for something, when I have a feeling that something needs to happen or should happen or whatever, I almost have like obsessive compulsive disorder with it, where it's like my entire life just kind of focuses in on that one thing, and it's like I've got to get there, I've got to get there, I've got to get there. And the surrender, the trusting, the letting go, I've experienced a lot of challenge with that part. Like it's, I know you've witnessed it in me many times.
I think everybody does, and I have as well, right? It's just, yeah, you have to come to a place where it's like, okay, I've done everything that I can, but let go of this.
Yeah.
And we hold on to some of these positionalities and these ego pieces like they're our own. Like you're telling this story in your head, and we were talking last week about the ego and how these stories manifest. And we continue to buy into it. And we don't even own it.
Yeah.
So we're allowing ourselves to get in our own way. That's a story that was told by somebody else. It just, when you really sit down and think about the whole fact of you getting in your own way, it is a little funny. I was going to say insane, but it's not. It's funny because here we are letting this small voice inside our head dictate what we can and can't do. And all we have to do is quiet it. And I'm not saying get rid of the ego, because I'm a firm believer that it is very difficult to do that. I like to say reconciling with your ego, and moving on from there. Saying, hey, you know what? It's okay. We're going to do this. Just shh, be quiet for a minute. Let somebody else take over.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's, when you do have those ego bits that are showing up, I mean, you can listen to them and let them take over. I've done it enough times to know that that's totally possible. But on the other side of that, there's a deeper knowing that each of us have, that totally believes in you, that totally thinks all things are possible, that totally thinks that you're completely limitless. That's a part that you can also listen to. And the ego part can also listen to that, divine knowing that's within each of us. The ego can tune into that. And you can ask yourself, who do I actually want to listen to here? Am I willing to listen to the ego? Yeah, I want to listen to what is my small story around this? What is the basis of it? Why did it start? And I mean, you can look at that for years upon years upon years. You're always going to find more reasons why that ego part believes that to be true. And on the other side of that, with this kind of limitless knowing that we all have, this limitless spark that's within us, there's also a lot of proof in that. And you get to choose, what one do you want to listen to? What part of you is essentially, I had written in my Camino journal, and it's coming into my mind now. Do you want anger to be your God, or do you want love to be your God? Do you want your fear to be your God, or do you want your courage to be your God? And you get to choose what do you want to put your focus on. And it's okay to know, yeah, I have fear sometimes. I'm human. We all have fear. But do we allow the fear to run our lives? Do we allow the anger to run our lives? And a lot of times the fear, the anger, the disappointment, the pride, all of these kind of lower vibrational energies that we all carry, they all stem from the past that's not actually present. And the only thing that's making them present is the fact that we're pulling them forward, and we're going, yeah, you're right. I do need to be angry about this. I do need to be fearful about this. I do need to stay limited about this. And we're allowing that thing to kind of take over us.
Yeah, it's releasing that ownership, right? We don't own that.
Yeah.
We never owned any of this.
And it also doesn't own us.
No. So, I mean, in saying that, that's, again, easier said than done, but you want to get out of your own way? Release it. Like,
yeah.
I know it sounds simple, but it is a battle.
Yeah, it's a challenge.
Yeah. It's a journey.
Yes. And I mean, there's times where, you eliminate, I shouldn't say eliminate, you alleviate yourself or reconcile with this ego part of yourself, this part of you that believed, oh, this is what the truth is. And then you are able to see, oh, no, that was never the truth. This is actually my truth. And you start to follow that path. And then there's another part that shows up. And then there's another part and another part and another part. And it's so important to understand that as long as you're alive, you're most likely going to have these parts show up. It doesn't mean that the healing work isn't working. It doesn't mean that you're not improving. It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you, or that it's a never-ending journey of like having these ego parts or anything. It's just opportunity to meet different aspects of yourself, to witness different aspects of yourself, to understand yourself, and all of these positionalities that are showing up on your path.
Yeah, and as you're saying that, it took me back to another conversation we were having when I was talking about it's like having the right combination, right? So you have this idea in mind, you have this thing that you want to do, and you try this and it doesn't work. You try that. It's like, figuring out that combination to the lock. Okay, I got the first number. You can see this piece and you get this. And then you have to try the next number. Oh, that didn't work. And then you got to try 5,000 different times, and you then finally get the number, but you're frustrated. But that's kind of the idea, is just, stay that course and trust that you'll find the number, you'll find the combination.
Yeah. And it will allow you to take a couple more steps forward. And then there might be a whole brand new lock for you to figure out. And that's okay. You're always moving ahead. You're always growing. You're always evolving. And when we have positions or positionalities on our path or in our minds about the way things are, the way things should be and whatnot, it does kind of limit us in how we can experience life and how we even flow within our relationships, within our workplace, within our experience with the world as a whole. And when we talk about positionalities, it's essentially a part of you that holds a belief to be so true that nothing else can be true. And so it's almost like it creates a block or a wall in front of you and everything else that's not like that.
Yeah, this has to be done this way because this is the way it has to be done.
Yeah. And
because somebody else told you that's how it had to be done.
Yeah. And like to break it down into like layman's terms as to what that would actually look like. If you remember like being in kindergarten or grade 1 and the teacher might ask like, what is everyone's favorite color? And maybe all the girls say pink is the best color. And then all the boys are like blue is the best color. And it creates like this division and everyone's knocking heads because they like pink and they like blue. And we get upset because why don't you like pink and I like blue and whatever. And we go, that it can't be correct. They are not like me. That's not correct. And when you hold that position so tightly, it breaks relationships. Mm-hmm. It creates separation. It doesn't allow you to see the full spectrum of the colors or the beauty of all of the colors. And we could put this straight across the board. There's, if you like dill pickles versus don't like dill pickles or whatever, but then you get into bigger things like,
religion. Like, there's plenty of different positionalities. So, yeah. I mean, and there's a lot of problems that we have in the world are due to those positionalities that people are saying, this is the way it has to be because this is what I'm saying. And it's not. And I've started to do this, and I challenge everybody to do that, is when you have those positionalities come up, question, where did it come from? Why do I believe this to be the truth?
Yeah. And
is this the truth? Or is this just something, for whatever reason, I've been carrying because, say, my dad taught me this. Well, is that really true? And maybe, and I'm not judging anybody's, experience or anything like that. There may be truth in it, but just question it. Where did it come from? And is it real?
Yeah. And especially if you're not really willing to listen to someone on, say, the opposing side, that to me would be an invitation to get even more curious. Like, why am I not even willing to listen to what this other person has to say? Or why am I not even willing to understand where they might be coming from or why they have this position? There was a beer commercial, I want to say. I think it was for Guinness, or what's the green bottle?
Heineken.
Yes, I think maybe it was Heineken. Anyways, they essentially brought a bunch of strangers into a bar, and they were coupled into like just pairs, and they'd never met each other before. And they had to just start a conversation, and essentially they were encouraging them to find something that they had in common. And then afterwards they found out that this other person was also like had a belief that was very different than theirs or whatever. But what they actually had them do was find a point of connection first, so friendship could be born with them. And then they told them, but they also believe in this, or whatever the case was. And I always thought it to be so awesome, because so often we look at what are the differences between me and them, and we don't give ourselves that opportunity for a connection because we're so busy looking for those differences. When if we look for what is the same with us, then the differences start to not matter so much, and you start to be a little bit more understanding and open-armed to the people around you, to invite them into your life, to allow yourself to actually have those connections.
Yeah, positions divide, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of, you know, the undertone that we're talking about. And yes, you can use religion as one, politics is another one. One that I was just thinking about that sticks out. I know we're kind of getting away from our main topic of getting out of your own way, but one of the positionalities in the not so distant past was with COVID and vaccinations and whatnot.
Yeah.
And how quickly, I thought that's probably one of the things that I observed so fast was how divisive our society got over who was doing what, or who was doing it right, and who was doing this. And it was like, wow, really? Like, here's a time where we should be binding together, and now we're taking sides on what is right and wrong because of something that somebody else said.
Yeah.
It just, yeah.
Yeah. And so we have tons of examples of where positionalities can really be can really be a threat to our relationships. They can be a threat to our communities. They can be a threat to the world at large. When we hold a position so much more valuable than we hold another person, that's where, problems start to stem. And those positions, like you were saying, to just get curious about them and ask yourself, why do I believe this to be true? And the positionalities, they don't necessarily have to be with someone outside of you. It can be something within you that you hold such a strong position that you can't allow yourself to move past it to actually have the things that you truly want.
Yeah.
It's
absolutely.
And that's where it gets kind of crazy, because then you're actually keeping yourself separated from expressing yourself as you truly want, from being everything that you truly want to be. And you might hold a position, I've always been angry, so I can't let go of my anger because I don't know who I'll be if I drop the position of anger. And so we'll stay angry for an entire life because we're so afraid of who we'll be without it. And who would you become without anger? Well, you'll probably be more peaceful. Is it going to be a little bit different at first? Yeah. I know, as I've been doing the healing work over the past couple of years, I've said to you a few times, I just feel kind of bored. I don't have as many positions that are ups as strongly now, and it gets kind of boring. It's too peaceful. Because there's parts of us that get so attached to drama, that get attached to, the up and down emotional roller coaster. And we go, that was fun. That was exciting, and now that everything's peaceful, I'm just kind of bored with it. But that boredom doesn't last forever either. No. You start to find new excitement and stuff.
Oh yeah, you start to find other challenges that take you deeper. You start questioning, okay, start doing, like I was saying about the root cause analysis, and you start looking, where did this position come from, or where did this ego piece come from, and you start tracing that back. And it leads to more and more work, or it leads you to, on your journey, to that peace within yourself.
And it becomes more of an opening up or an expansion rather than a breaking apart or falling apart kind of feeling is how I would.
Yeah, it's a relinquishment, right? It's that surrendering piece. It's like, oh man, why have I stressed out my whole life?
Yeah.
None of this is, I don't own any of this.
Yeah. We were having a discussion a few weeks ago. I had a realization that came through, and I was like crying these tears of gratitude, of enlightenment. I don't even know what the tears were, but it felt totally different than any other kind of tears that I've had in the past. And we had this kind of moment of like, imagine if we could collect my tears when I'm in pain versus collect my tears during a time of enlightenment, and what would those look like differently under a microscope if we were to like freeze them. And we haven't done that yet. We haven't bought a microscope, but the tears are, it's so different, like falling apart and breaking apart versus expanding and opening is such a different sensation in the body, and so worthy of giving up the positions to be able to experience that. So
yeah, it's I'm just going back to that whole discussion, and I'm trying to remember actually what our topic was at that point, but no, it was great. And the fact that the crystalline structure for different tiers shows up differently under that microscope, right? And how that looks. And it's quite interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
But going back to the ego and yeah, it is really a struggle, and then we have the influence of others and our partners and our co-workers, and everybody has that everybody. The ego does not have an avatar. Remember that. The ego does not have an avatar. Your ego, my ego, very much the same.
Yeah.
We all think they're different. We all think we're this individual avatar, and you've got your ego that looks like you, and I've got my ego. It doesn't. They all function the same way, and we all have the same fears and hesitations and this, that, and whatnot. So learning how to reconcile, learning how to move past, really is nobody else. That is a journey for oneself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to note too how many different aspects of the ego there are, how many different voices of the ego are. So you can like reconciliate with one part of your ego and have another part that's showing up. The same when you're in relationship with anybody, whether it's your partner or family members or whatever, to understand they also have all these different kind of egos that are going to be showing up, that are going to be triggered and whatnot. And again, when you allow yourself to start kind of leading these ego pieces or reconciling with them, harmonizing with them and whatnot, and you become kind of the
observer.
The observer. I was going to say the overlord. Observer is much better.
Ego.
Yeah. But when you're really coming from it from this more mature, more enlightened kind of version of you that's going, okay, yeah, I hear you. You're scared. I get it. Let's talk about that fear. But also, it's not real. The pride, also not real. You're not going to be better than if you do this. You're not going to be less than if you do this, because you're just worthy. As you are, you're just worthy. And when you really allow yourself to receive that message from yourself to yourself, or if you're lucky to have someone who's going to sit there with you with your ego parts and like hear all of what that ego part has to say and take it in and remind it of what its truth is, that ego part gets to kind of soften and it gets to grow up just a little bit. And that to me is really the beauty of it. And it helps to create deeper relationships with the people around you when you don't have that ego piece that's running the show, because the ego, it gets offended so easily. You know, it reads information and it's just offended and it wants to be defensive. And as much as it's creating these deep relationships, it's also hyper offended by everything that anyone does that's different than its own position. You know, and it can wreak havoc on relationships. It can dismantle things.
Yeah, and it will align, right? Like you can see this in our society, like egos do align, and you'll see where people that are full of hate or full of whatever, or full of pain, they will line up. They will line up together. They will bind together.
Mm. Well, and then they kind of feed into each other's.
Right? They may have nothing in common, but this one hate or whatever it is, but their egos are like, we're buddy, let's go.
Yeah. Well, and they're there to defend, and they're there to almost prove your story to you, you know? Yeah. And I've often, and I don't know, I think you've gone through this experience too, I often feel like a lone wolf when I'm coming into conversations with people, but seeing it from a different perspective of one that's, you know, loving, forgiving, compassionate, understanding, accepting, all of that. And you get met with a lot of egos because a lot of people are like, no, I'm angry about this. I need to be angry about this. And you should be angry about this too. Like I've had people tell me things that I should be angry about that I'm like, I'm not angry about it. And honestly, the more they talk to me and tell me why I should be angry, then there is like, it's like the ego part does start to kind of come up and go, oh, maybe I should be angry and whatnot. And it's interesting.
You can feel that a little bit. Oh, yeah. I know we've had some dealings or some experiences in the past where you're like, why are you angry? Get angry.
Yes.
And I'll be like, no, I'm not buying into that.
I've been that person for you too.
Well, it just shows you the ego is the same, right? Like it wants that. I want to have a partner. I want to have like somebody. Oh, come with me. Come on, join the angry party.
Yeah. Oh, that's so funny because I never even thought of that. But yeah, I do remember a couple experiences that we had, and I was witnessing him go through some things with another person and feeling like he should be so angry about what these dealings were. And he was like, yeah, I'm just not reacting to them anymore. I refuse to let them see my reaction. I refuse to give them any of my energy. And I was like, I will show all of the anger for you then. Like, I was just very angry about it. And perhaps even in a little bit of defense for you to be like, well, if you're not going to stick up for yourself, I will stick up for you.
Yeah, and it wasn't the best way sometimes to stick up for yourself is to not let people absorb your energy and not allow them to manipulate you to be on the same level as them.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's, you know, and you have to do the same sometimes with your egos where it's like, no, you know what? Not today.
Yeah.
Not today. Today I'm going to push through this, or today I'm going to just sit with this.
Yeah. Oh, it's so interesting too, because nowadays there's so much on social media about like cutting people out of your life if they're negative. If you're always feeling tired after you're with someone, then they're an energy drain and you should cut them out of your life and la-di-da-di-da. And I mean, I bought into that for quite a while too, where it was like, oh, that person's too negative. I can't have them around me and whatnot. And sometimes perhaps that is best for someone's mental health. But as you were just saying about not allowing someone else to absorb your energy, it's not the other person that is really the problem. It's how much are you allowing yourself to react to what the other person is doing? Because that reaction that you have is really a positionality that you're actually just allowing to kind of buy into. So if someone is always exhausting you, it might feel like they're just taking everything from you. They don't have anything to offer back. And so you feel like you're giving everything to them. But understand in that point, and I've done this, you're kind of viewing them from a point of I'm higher than you and you've got nothing to give me, peasant, you know? And that's really what it looks like. You're sitting on your high horse and you're looking down at them going, you have nothing to offer me. I'm giving you everything and now I'm lifeless because of you. where really it should be a two-way relationship where you're receiving and giving at the same time, and they're giving to you, and what you're receiving might look different than what your expectation is. Well, then why do you have that expectation? Why are you holding that position that this is how everybody needs to show up?
And I would just add to that, just keep this in mind, that receiving may not come from that person, but it will come back. I'm a firm believer that whatever we do, it will transcend and it will go out to the world. It will come back. It may not be from you. It may be from another scenario. It may be from another, but it will. And have faith and trust that is the case. Do the right thing because it's the right thing. That's. I did have a thought there. Now it's gone. So.
All right. Yeah. So I'm going to use this as an opportunity to see if anyone who's watching right now does have any questions or things that they've got coming up for them as they're listening here. And as we see those comments come in, then we will definitely answer them or bring you into the conversation. Go ahead.
Oh, now I remember the whole cancel culture. You brought this up. What do you think? That is all ego. That is absolutely ego. That's positional ego. That's like, oh, we don't like this message because it doesn't align with these people. Let's get rid of this person so we can be part of our group.
Yeah. And it's heartbreaking as a society to see.
We need more things that bind us together as a community.
Yeah.
Versus separate us and divide us.
Yeah.
We need to as well listen to ourselves. Not this. Well, this, but not the wrong things. Like the news is, and don't get me wrong, I watch the news, but you filter it, right? And don't take everything for absolute what it is. Question everything. Be curious about everything.
Yeah. And I mean, the interesting thing about cancel culture to me is then how many people are actually living in fear now, and their ego has kind of bought into this idea of cancel culture, and I've been one of them, where you're so afraid to actually share your truth, to share your message, to share your voice, to share your gifts, because you're afraid of someone might cancel me down the line. Now, what's interesting about that is that essentially means that you're canceling yourself before you've even gotten started because you're afraid someone's going to cancel you down the line. But I know so many light workers, healers, creators, storytellers, authors, musicians, etc., who are like almost like frozen in their state and not offering their gifts because they're afraid of what they've witnessed happen to other people. And that to me, it breaks my heart, because we're here to be creators. We're here to express. We're here to share our truths, our versions of the truth. And even if they don't align with everybody, that's what we're here to do. And so many, myself included, will just kind of hold themselves back and go, I can't share this, as a just in case, And
I did that for years, right? It wasn't until in the last little while where I was like, I've been waiting for that day to share this.
Yeah.
And what day is it? What are you waiting for? It was like, why have I waited my whole life to share these gifts, to do something like this?
Yeah.
And I know we had discussions about this, and this is kind of our ego conversation. Well, what if nobody watches? And really, my position on this was, it doesn't really matter. The people that want to hear, the people that want to align, the people that want to have a conversation, the people that want to build a community are going to show up. And then we're going to have those conversations, and we're going to build a better and a stronger foundation for generations.
Yeah.
And if people get mad about some of our conversations or how we handle things or how we look or whatever, so be it. But the intention is that we're doing this for the betterment of everybody. Yeah. We're not looking for gratification. We're not looking for internet success or anything like that. We're not looking to become superstars or whatever you want to call it. See?
Sorry. Yeah. We're not looking to be influencers.
No. Just wanting to build a better world.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think you bring up a great point, because I feel like I was asking you for years, like I was like, you've got a message to share. Like, you need to share this. You're so wise. You are helping me so much. You need to mentor people. You need to coach people, blah, 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 blah. And now you're finally kind of coming out of that shell and sharing your gifts. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I was sharing other gifts though, right? Like I got to this point, and it got to a point where it was like, why haven't I been doing this? And I didn't have an answer for myself, so I needed to start doing this because I couldn't answer why.
Yeah, and essentially you removed all of the pieces that had been getting in your way, right? Like all of the beliefs and thoughts and everything that had told you just wait before, they were all just dismantled. And that's really what it takes. You've got to get out of your own way. If you have a gift to share, if you have and the gift, it could be that you're getting on live on Facebook and you're talking to people, or you're taking a certification, or that you're painting a picture, or you're writing a book, or you're making jewelry, or whatever it might be. Your gift is your gift, but it's yours to share, and we do have to get out of our own way in order to be able to express that.
Absolutely. And I will just go back to that. It's that intention piece, right? Anything that you do, share that gift. Don't wait for that day. Don't wait for, when, whatever the kids grow up, or whatever the case may be, whatever the scenario is, don't wait for that day. If you have a gift, share it, and share it with as many people as you can.
Yeah. And
why not? Because what's going to happen if you don't share it? People aren't going to know, right? You're not going to build that community. But if you do share it, think of all the great things that can happen from that.
Yeah. Wayne Dyer used to always say, don't let the music die within you. And there was a story attached to it, and I don't remember the story, but essentially it's like, if you've got a song to sing, don't die with that music inside of you, because your voice is the only voice that can sing it. You're the only person that can share whatever the song is that your life experience has been. You're the one who needs to express it. And as we're talking about like gifts and expressing gifts and whatnot, one of our greatest gifts that every single one of us has, and yet we hold it so tightly to our hearts, is our gift of love. And we, reserve it for someone special, or we try and protect it, or we allow ourselves to be loving with this person and not loving with this person, or whatever. And I would invite each of you to kind of go or ask the question, how can I share my love? And sometimes that's through my gifts, and sometimes it's by sitting and listening to someone. Sometimes it's having a conversation. Sometimes it's through forgiveness. Sometimes it's willing to have a conversation with someone that you've always had difficulty with, and going, you know what, I'm going to put down all of my positions that I've held. I want to connect with you. I want to have a deep conversation with you, and let's see if we can bring ourselves back to a place of love. Love is our greatest gift. It is probably the most challenging thing, and it's so bizarre to me how challenging it is to just be loving, but these positions that we hold and the things that we allow to get into our way, they stop us from expressing that love, from sharing that love, from just being even just loving beings with each other.
And as you're talking, the only thing that kept ringing in my head, love will find a way. Mm-hmm. Love will find a way. Love will find a way. I'm lately, I know I've talked to you about this, words are a big thing for me. Never were before, but now it's like these words come up. And you think about that. Love will find a way. Love will help you navigate. Mm-hmm. Love will help you resolve. Love will provide. Love will find a way. Yeah. It's just...
Yeah. Like, we really don't have to try as hard as what we think we do. Yeah. And if it is very effortful for you to be loving, I would say there's a positionality that's in the way there. And if it's very effortful for you to try and get ahead with your work, there's a positionality that you're holding on to, or a belief system that you're holding on to, that's not allowing things to just flow. Because as you say, love will find a way. It's like water will find a way. Water doesn't care what its structure is supposed to be. It's going to flow as it's meant to flow. You know, you can build a dam and it's going to find every little crevice that it can to go that way. So Becky is saying, do you not think that sometimes people block love because they have been hurt in the past? How do they get over that fear? Absolutely, Becky. And to me, this comes back to when we understand that the ego has been hurt in the past, or we ourselves have been hurt in the past, but understanding that that hurt that we carry is connected to the past no longer happening. Okay. Now the ego is going to go, I've been hurt, so I can't be loved again, and I can't be loving again because love hurts. Okay. Well, love in its entirety does not actually hurt. Other people's egos can absolutely crush us. Our own ego can absolutely crush us. That was not love, right? Egos can step in, even within loving relationships between people. Egos can step in where hurt can happen. We were just having the conversation the other night with one of our children, and I said to him, you know, understand that your ego is basically all of the voices that you heard from me, from him, from his dad, from his stepmom, from grandparents, from teachers and whatever, on all of our worst days. Okay? The ego isn't built from someone being loving towards them. The ego is created from those heartbreaking moments, from those crush the soul moments, from the times that we've been betrayed or rejected or abandoned or whatever. That's where the ego position starts to take place. And so when those moments happen, the people that are doing those things to us, they're not coming at it from a place of love either. Because a broken person will break people, a hurt person will hurt people. Someone who's in their most divine connected love doesn't hurt someone. You know, just think of like, you know, when you fall in love with someone, you're just like, you know, everything about them is just like the most divine sound. I remember when we first got together and I'm falling in love with him and stuff, and he snores at night, and I was like, it is the best sound in the world. My ego has changed the mind on that one.
And there's a lot of, I sorry.
No, go ahead.
I get caught up in the words. So there's a lot of positionality there, right? We say, you know, love will find a way. But because people have been hurt before, they had a position of what love looked like. Yeah. So love is supposed to look this way. It didn't look that way. So that caused me pain. All of these things are you're causing this because you're setting this position of, this is how I wanted it to be. It wasn't that way. So that caused me pain. You're not, you know what I'm saying? So it caused you pain. You caused your own pain because you had a belief of what love looked like, or love was supposed to look like. And the fear of that getting in your own way, that's, again, you're getting in your own way.
Yeah. Well,
like, I get it. There's bad people out there. I get it that there's some relationships that don't work out, but that is just another piece in the journey to knowing what love you want, and the love that you deserve, or the love that resonates best with you. It's not something to be afraid of or something to block. It's to go, okay, that didn't work. Here, I'm going to try another number on that combination. You know, I'm going to try and, okay, did this work? Let's step to the next one.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, to be fearful of love it is almost the same as saying to be fearful of breath. You know, I'm afraid to breathe in because I once breathed in and I choked on my own, you know, I breathed in and I choked. Love is just an unconditional force throughout this universe. We could call it divine energy or whatever. The true meaning of love, when you kind of take the humanness aspect out of it, the true meaning of love is an all-encompassing feeling, an all-encompassing connectedness that runs between all of us.
With no positionalities and no ego.
Yes, with no positionalities, no ego. It just is. It's a life force that's allowing plants to grow and allowing animals to be active and allowing us to sit here and have this conversation with you right now. So the fear, it is really not a fear of love, but more so the fear of being broken again. But as long as you're holding on to that positionality of love is going to break me, love is all, like, the idea of love, it is continuing to break you. Because to truly be loved, to truly be able to kind of surrender to the idea of love, it's beautiful, it's peaceful, it's,
Yeah, I would break that down into little pieces and get curious about each one of those things. What is the block? What is the fear? What is it? And where does it come from? And where does this come from? And work through it.
Yeah. And all of the parts of you that have experienced love as being hurtful, I would actually write it all down. I was this old when this happened, and I was this old when this happened, and this old when this happened. And just look for, is there patterns with the experiences? Is there patterns with what the emotions have been? Because in that, you can kind of go back to, so say you have 5 experiences where you were rejected in a relationship, and there's 3 experiences where you felt abandoned within a relationship, and there was 10 experiences where you felt really angry. So then you could, start with the ones where you felt really angry and go, okay, that's what I'm just going to focus on right now. I'm not going to worry about the rejection. I'm not going to worry about the abandonment. I'm just going to focus on, how can I release this anger from my being? How can I, find, I'm not going to say forgiveness for what they did to me, but forgiveness for the positionalities I took because of what that experience was. For right now. Because when we start to talk about forgiveness and we're still, kind of entangled with what those experiences have been and what all the emotions are, it can get a little, like, it's almost like that's 10 steps down the road. So for right now, just breaking down that experience or those experiences that you've had to understand where all of the narration has come from that has allowed you to go into fear about love and about stepping into relationships with people again, or opening your heart to people again. I hope that helps, Becky.
All right. So yeah, last week we started a new thing. I don't know if people that weren't on the call, was a little bit of a different, I don't know, what do you want, segment?
It's just to allow you guys to get to know us better, because we're sitting here sharing our thoughts, ideas, beliefs, and opinions about these topics. So we thought it would be great to have some get to know you questions. So I'm just reaching into the jar now and hoping that I don't pull out the same question as I did last week. And this is just kind of a fun segment. So, John, what's a dream that you've had since childhood?
To go back to my planet. Laugh, but I say this all the time. No, I don't, I don't really know. I guess when I say that, it's like, it's to understand. It is to, sure, I'd like to travel. Sure, I'd like to have experiences and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I'd like to go to a different planet. Yeah, it's really difficult because we've had journeys, we've had adventures, and they're all great. And I would do whatever those adventures are, and I would continue to travel. But I don't think there's one dream that I've had from like childhood that I haven't or would live out.
Fair enough.
Other than like I said, do I want to be an astronaut? No, not necessarily. But to have cool experiences where it's new, and like, this is a prime example. So
awesome. And for myself, a dream that I've had since childhood, well, essentially my dreams when I was a child was I was going to be a famous singer and I was going to win Grammys. And so I don't necessarily carry the singing dream anymore, although I do love to sing. I wanted a Wings of Freedom house for teenagers. That was another big one. And I think that dream still exists within me. And essentially, it was going to be the Wings of Freedom House for teenagers that nobody understood. And it was going to be a place for teens to go and they could get self-help and whatnot. And I was about 17 years old when this dream was really percolating for me. And I think essentially that shifted into us having the albergue and like having a place for people to come and to allow themselves to rest and for us to nurture them, whether through the spiritual gifts or through food or just having space. So it's like the dream has unfolded into something bigger. I also wanted to be an author, doing that. Wanted to be a nurse, not doing that. I don't like blood a whole lot, but I do enjoy healing people and helping people. So I feel like I'm doing a lot of what my dreams were. I'm living.
Well, it's kind of interesting because I'm thinking of like this dream that I have, and you were talking about, the things you wanted to be when you grew up. We all had those books where you put what you wanted to be.
Yeah.
Remember, I wanted to be a bumblebee.
Yes, he wanted to be a bumblebee when he was 5.
I wanted to be a bumblebee because when I was 4 or 5 years old, I got stung by about 1 million of them, went into shock, and was allergic after that. So I wanted to get my revenge. I wanted to sting them back. That was my whole thought. But we went through this, right? It was like all the little things that we wanted to be was like, a police officer or a model or an artist, and we've actually seen those pieces develop within our lives.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, yeah, you're not a policeman, but you do have this piece. Or you're not a model or an artist, but you do express yourself this way. The dreams or those things we're living them.
Absolutely. And I'm just going to come back to you, Becky, before we hop off here, because I do see your comment. And you're saying, I do know people who seem to end up with those who always end up with those that hurt. Yes. And this is where understanding your patterns, understanding your positionalities it becomes so important, because we will look for the people who are going to allow that wound to be expressed if we have not healed it. And so we can get into the same relationships over and over and over again, and the character changes. But the experience of it, the wounded part of us, it's experiencing the same thing over and over and over again. And that's where you can get curious. If you're a person who's experiencing the same patterns within your relationships, you can get curious to see what part of me is helping to create this. What part of me is co-creating this in my life? And I know a lot of people don't want to hear that. They don't want to take that responsibility for, I'm not creating this, that person's an asshole, it's not me who's creating them to be an asshole. But there's a part of you that gets triggered every time you're with someone that's like that triggers you. You're the one with the trigger button inside, right? If you don't have that trigger button, they can't trigger you. If you don't have that imprint or that belief system within you, then you wouldn't even draw them into your energy field.
It's that trauma bonding and ego alignment.
Yeah.
It really is. It's like things attract, or, like things will gather. It's just, that's how it goes.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's, a lot of times we talk about like the narcissist and the empath, and that the narcissist and the empath, they often come together in relationship with each other. And what's really interesting to me, and I've been saying this for a few years now, but I don't really announce it too publicly, is the narcissist will walk into a room and they think everybody's got their eyes on them and it's all about them and very self-serving and whatnot. The empath walks into a room and they feel too much energy, then they make it all about them and they have to leave that because it's them that's now shutting down, and it's also all about them. And so that wounded part for both is actually the exact same, which is why we come together over and over and over again. But once the empath starts to have stronger boundaries in place, they're not there to absorb everybody's energy. They're just like, yeah, I can feel the energies. I'm going to give myself a break when I want to, but I'm also going to let you feel your own pain. I'm going to let you be the one who experiences your own pain instead of going, I'm just absorbing it all. that's where that energy kind of, it starts to break apart. The narcissist cannot exist without the empath cannot exist without the narcissist, but they can both live in reality with each other without destroying each other as well. And we all have narcissistic tendencies. That's the thing a lot of people don't seem to understand. There's not as many narcissists out there, like a clinically termed narcissist, as what there are people who have narcissistic tendencies.
Isn't that a great example of ego and divinity?
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
The empath and the narcissist.
Yeah. Well, and I think the problem for a lot of empaths, or with a lot of empaths, and also it was my problem for the longest time too, is essentially the empath is created from trauma. The empath is the younger child who felt all these big energies, had no idea what these big energies meant, and were trying to dance or perform for their parents or for the energies that were around them to keep the peace with everything. So really what the empath is like this walking nervous system that's just like constantly shaking and feeling all of the energies, and they've got all their feelers out and everything, and they think this is everybody else's energy. All you have to do is stop reading the room. Stop allowing yourself to tap into all of that. It's not your job to stop everyone from feeling everything. It's not your job to listen to all of that. And the more you go within yourself, where a lot of empaths have a problem with this, is we tend to go outward and we go, I need to fix this feeling for this person. I need to help them with this life situation. Where instead you can use it to go, wow, I also know exactly what this energy feels like. I know exactly what this emotion feels like. And I'm going to go within myself and I'm going to heal it within myself for them. Sure, we can say that, but ultimately it's for you. You only feel their sadness because you have a world of sadness inside of you. You only feel their anger because you have a world of anger within you. And a lot of times we look out there to try and fix it with them, when really it's just in here that we need to go. And that's going to be my final thought for the day. Go within, look at your positionalities, and allow yourself to just get curious with yourself. Soften your edges, soften your positionalities, soften what you think to be like a hardcore truth for you, so that you can gently move back into love. We will be back here next Sunday night. Thank you everybody for joining us, and we look forward to connecting with you again. Have a great night.
Take care.
I can't. It's, oh, there we go.